here we are. We are going to get stuck in to our book review today, which is Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. And this is one of the most riveting, hilarious, moving, enjoyable, enthralling texts that I have read. And it really did make us, suppose, look at the world in a different way. So the concept of the book, I think, is really, really unique because the protagonists are all old age pensioners, senior citizens.
Yeah, all elderly.
And so the theme of aging was prevalent in it, and certainly something that I am becoming a little bit more aware of as the decades.
Very sympathetic to the oldies now.
Well, I really am, because, you know, in spite of all of the kind of murders and stuff and kind of dark issues and more serious issues that they talked about, I could see myself in quite a few of them, particularly the feisty Elizabeth. So I suppose that's maybe a good place for us to start.
Yeah.
Is this unlikely band of people and the characters, their friendships, their infusion, how they've all been thrown together as a result, without putting too fine a point on it, because they are old. They're all retired and they've moved into this retirement village together, and they were the most unlikely of friends. So I suppose we could start with the theme of friendship.
Yep.
So in this retirement village, now you keep me right, Christina, our key protagonists, we have Elizabeth, we have Joyce, Abraham, and Ron.
Yes.
And they are all from different walks of life. They've all had very different types of careers, families, but they all find themselves in this retirement village in their old age. And it seems quite luxurious, you know. He really did. Richard Osman really did sell
lovely.
it. Yeah, it sounded like a place that you would like to end up in. I do not want to be.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep saying this to you, but no, keep me at home when my time
no
comes.
Retirement village and new friends for you.
No. But so these eclectic group of people from very different walks of life come together. They develop this really interesting, highly comedic friendship. And it's really, I suppose, the unusual nature of their friendship is conveyed through the Thursday Murder Club, their social activity, where this group, they have the social space and they use it to investigate cold cases, for want of a better word, because one of their Elizabeth, I think, we never actually found out what her background was, but she had some skills. I really love the way that her friendship with the Joyce character developed, because at the front of the beginning of the text, it's Elizabeth who comes up to Joyce, who was previously a nurse. Yeah. And she wants to know, you know, by the stab wounds on this case, how long it would take somebody to bleed out. And I like, that was me going, what is going on in this text? Never, you know.
No, but even, I think for me, even the fact, so it's these old people, you know, and you're expecting, you know, in a social space like a knitting club or, you know, crochet,
now that
or
ties
chess.
in really to the stereotypes.
But the fact, and because you see it with young people, a lot of young people get, you know, become or bond over the likes of true crime. So these old people, it just completely subverts what you expect, you know.
Because there is, you know, I think what Osman does here is he shines a light on the wisdom and the experience and the value added that our senior members of society still have to offer. Like, because culturally, and I, you know, maybe I'm wrong in this, but it certainly seems that we're losing the respect. You know, we kind of write people off and they go into
was like this.
But they are, you know, they have rich and colourful lives. So, you know, the friendship of these people who right from the get-go, they acknowledge that bar for their age, bar for the fact that they have chosen to relocate themselves here, in this setting, that their paths wouldn't have crossed.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have these friendships. The Thursday Murder Club wouldn't be bringing them all together.
Do you think maybe he's just, when we're thinking of the theme of friendship, that he's maybe trying to open this sort of commentary, that perhaps we're too invested in surface level things, that if we broadened our horizons and were more open towards people, we would have more enriching friendships? And the fact that he did it through these old people who seemingly the only thing that bonds them or links them is the fact that they're old, but they're
what
able
he did
to...
through what I think that he did really skillfully, so I agree with everything that you've said there, because I think when you're younger, certainly when I think back to my younger self, I was much more inhibited, and I didn't have the confidence, and I was more worried about, what will people think, and if I could go back to my younger self, I would say, catch yourself on, just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And that's what this really dynamic group of older people in this text, through their friendships, did. They were completely stripped of what will anybody, what will other people think. Time was against them, in terms of their own mortality, because if they didn't do it, they couldn't procrastinate. So it stripped all that back.
Yeah.
And, it was, carpe diem, seize the day.
Yeah.
And, when Elizabeth goes in, and Joyce take the bus trip, and that little friendship, and she has landed with no bag on the bus, and Joyce is going into town, and they end up in the police station. The humour that was written into that,
and I do think that,
I was even saying to you about the even the kind of the description of the mundane travel, getting this bus in, and they had to, the bus
everything's
driver,
a big event.
It is, but it was just it was all of these one-liners that were thrown in, and the one that really stands out for me, and I think I mentioned it to, it was either you or it was my sister I was telling, because I've recommended this to anybody who will listen, such a good read, was the one-liner where they were getting off the bus, and I think it was Joyce, because this was in her diary, and it was her internal musings that were being written out on the page. And she had said, that they had to meet. So they had 3 hours basically in the town from the bus driver dropped them off, and that nobody was late. Well, except for that one time, such and such was late. But he was late. He had a very good reason, because he'd actually dropped dead of a heart attack in the light bulb aisle of whatever the department store was. And I mean, I wept myself laughing, because it was just so deadpan, matter of fact, and it was just dropped in there, but so funny. But when they went into, you just think they were like it was like reverse teenagers. They went into the police station to get
these two ladies, they're up to no good,
to PC Veritas. And Elizabeth, the ringleader, said, look, we need to speak to her. Just follow my lead. And Joyce is in there. She's a bit, flustered. And the dynamic, how one very quickly, that friendship picks up off the other. And she said she needed to report a crime, that her bag had been stolen, and all the while Joyce is going, oh, that's why she didn't have a bag on the bus, and the comedy, that was written into that, and that these two old women, and I'm saying that they didn't view themselves as being old. They were, they're internally, they were still the same
very
people.
young at heart. Well, obviously, I feel like their experience as well has enabled them to turn into the people that they are as well. So I feel like I agree with you to an extent that they don't feel old, but at the same time, they've developed a wisdom and a wit that only someone of that age could have.
Yes, when I say they don't feel old, I mean mentally.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, God, no.
But it's their physical. And as I get older, that's something that I can relate to, because...
Would you like to be an Elizabeth or a Joyce?
I saw so many things of my own personality that I would want to be able to have. And I can see, that poem, is it, when I am old, I shall wear purple, or whatever it is. Yeah. I could see how you can go from being, the trajectory there, because like I'm a much different, I'm much more, I'm not overly confident, but I am someone who is, when I go out, Now I'm not as concerned as I would have been when I was a 20-year-old or,
Yep.
in my teens. So you can see that evolution going on.
Absolutely, yeah. And even when you're saying that, I understand what you mean, because I would often say, I don't feel any different to how I did when
Yeah.
I was 18. And it's not, I still feel young and I still feel fun. But in a way, I know I've matured and I'm able to, like Joyce and Elizabeth, I'm able to do more things with a more carefree
Yeah.
sort of,
Absolutely. So what we never found out what Elizabeth did for a living, but she was clearly involved in some kind of high level government.
Yeah.
Had she been in like a spy or something
Yep.
like that, she was, she had all of the skills. Joyce was a nurse. Ibrahim was a psychologist, and Ron, I think, was he the trade union? He was the trade union
His son was
activist, the famous boxer.
boxer.
So 4 very different
Yep.
backgrounds. How, as their friendship evolved through their interactions in the nursing home and through their interactions with the Thursday Murder Club, how do you think that friendship impacted on their ability to solve the murders, the cold case and the murders that happen in the locality as the story unfolds?
I feel like their friendship, because they were such an eclectic mix, that is what aided the Thursday Murder Club, because there were so many different backgrounds, like, because it was like, ask your son or daughter, this,
They
and
had
that was
such a wide network then to...
because of their different, sort of backgrounds, and the fact that, they could pull, like, as you said, Elizabeth asking Joyce for her knowledge, as a nurse and stuff. And also, I just think that their personalities, for being so different, they all sort of bounced off each other as well,
What I find interesting about their dynamic in relation to solving the crime, there was a complete absence of ego. That really did belong to, and there was no vying for power. It was, who is the best person with the best set of skills, the best knowledge base to go to, or to delegate that to, or to take ownership of that. There was no one person there who had to be the big boss. And they all worked together, which I
Though
find
I do feel like Elizabeth was a total...
But they
boss.
all innately responded to her.
Oh, absolutely.
To her, if you like, gentle leadership or gentle, they listened, but it wasn't hers.
She wasn't bossing them around.
And they were able to, I loved the friendship between Ron and Ibrahim, the quiet, and Ibrahim knowing when not to speak. I found the pathos in terms of the backstory behind each of the friends as they develop, as Osman took us through, really, really telling. And I'm not sure what stood out for you, but the part that stood out for me was with Ibrahim and the cases that he couldn't sleep over, that troubled him because he was unable to help to save them or to help, whether that was his patients maybe who had ended their lives or whatever. And it was that kind of, okay.
Do you know, and you're saying that, I feel like what Richard Osman has done so well, and it's something that I feel like no matter how much you respect, the elderly, they do sort of go by the wayside in terms of, especially for me who feels so far away from that, I'm nearly like, that they have nothing to do with me. There's too much of a generational divide, and you nearly forget that they were once
where you are.
And it really humanizes them and puts them into...
but what does that say about our culture and our society?
Oh,
where
absolutely.
It takes a text to remind us of that. And that's not me having a go at
but
you.
But I'm sure it would be vice versa, and I'm not, like, I know old people impart wisdom, but there's an element of young people are rude or whatever, and there is that...
Well, again, there's stereotypes as well.
But it is, it's across the divide, but that's what it was for me, was that they're sort of humanization. Like, even they're so, blasé about, death and stuff like that because they know it's coming.
They're so accepting of the
Yes,
way they dealt with it. It was just, it was right
Yeah.
here. So, I mean, the themes and
Yeah.
the issues that, with
But
death,
yeah.
murder, euthanasia, suicide, like it was in there.
But I feel like because for me, I think old people don't care about death, or it's not that they don't care, but they know when someone dies, they're like, I'll be going soon anyway,
Well,
but there is a real...
well, I think he did, and he did it so beautifully. Was there was and it's something that everybody, it's the one certainty that we have in life, and that's death. That is the only certainty. But what he did here, and again, I just can't, I think the way that it was dealt with so matter-of-factly, but with such pathos and compassion. You had, yes, the profound awareness of one's own mortality.
Yeah.
The sense of awareness of losing those who are closest to us, but also then those very private internal moments that each and every one of us will have, irrespective of age, is when you are faced with your own mortality. The process that you have to go through, I imagine, in first of all accepting it. Again, there's bound to be an element of fear there as well. And the, getting to that point where it is, that you are okay with it. So it's from acceptance, fear, to becoming okay, and then to, to dying. So I think that, as well as not writing off old people or older members of our society, a key reminder was that all of these people have a past.
Oh, yeah.
All of these people have a present, and ignore at your peril. And overlook at your peril, because just because you're old, it's not like there's this great dividing line that says, okay, you can't commit murder, or that or that you won't commit suicide,
or just because you have a certain profession doesn't mean that
you, yes, absolutely, that you are not going to take justice into your own hands, and the guilt that comes with all of that. So all of these things, and that was one thing again, that I think that was threaded through it, was that truth always comes to the light, will always find its way to the light, because these were, cold cases, historic crimes that were all very well kind of had all risen to the top and come out to the fore at the end. So I think that was a very important aspect of the text as well. It was just so clever. And you get all that.
And it's not
a tomb. It's not, and I mean, it is a
but
page
it is so
turner.
Tightly woven, everything. It does all happen in a relatively short space of time, given how long it is. But it's so intricately woven. And there were times where it was like, right, so this person's changed their name to this, and this person's involved here. And it was nearly like I had my own murder board going with the red lines, but it was such an enjoyable read. And then when you get to that twist at the end, you're like...
Absolutely.
And it's...
Well, you've
mentioned... you don't expect.
You have mentioned twists.
Yeah.
And just like the life experiences of each of these characters, which was full of ups and downs and twists and turns, which is life. It's a very much a journey that just when you think you've got it all figured up, it jumps up and bites you on the proverbial, and you're humbled again. I've been humbled quite a lot, and I now know that I know nothing. I'm quite happy to say that. But the twists and turns within this text, from start to finish, are absolutely second to none. What twist or turn, or what revelation specifically surprised you the most?
for me, the most memorable thing for me was the priest and the nun. Only because I was like, oh my God.
That was kind of a subplot.
Yeah, but it was how it all, because he was very against this
the graveyard
being dug up. And my first thought was, he doesn't want something found out, which he didn't want something found out. But, well, he didn't want the person he loved, he didn't want their grave to be disturbed. Yeah. And I agreed with that, you know, and then the body was found, blah, blah, blah. But it was that there. So he wasn't actually a priest. He was a doctor.
He had been a priest. And
but
because... he had been a priest. He had fallen in love with a young nun.
Yeah.
They had had a relationship. Mm-hmm. She became pregnant.
Yeah.
She confided in one of her other nuns who told her mother superior. Mm-hmm. And she was going to be sent back to whatever village she came from in Ireland. I think they both originated from. And she couldn't cope with that and tragically took her own life. He only found out after the fact what had happened. Mm-hmm. And the deal that was done was that he was going to return home. Mm-hmm. He was going to be written out of records. Yep. Mm-hmm. And she would be allowed the dignity of being buried in the graveyard with the rest of the nuns, and her death by her own hand wasn't going to be revealed. Mm-hmm. And that was really his backstory. So when he was involved when he was present at the murder of Ian Bentham, he was obviously a suspect.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like you had multiple suspects.
Oh, there was only a couple of people around at the time of that, yeah. I don't know.
I loved when they had to rate themselves, you know, and they were doing this seriously. You know, Ron and Abraham, and Abraham going, Ron, like, you're a 7. Mm-hmm. These are the reasons that you're a 7. Do you want to argue? Because that's going to put you up to an 8. And, you know, you're going, well, all right, then I'll be, the humour that was written into that again. And then Abraham putting him down, yes, I'm a 7 too. I like,
they're so funny.
And where were they going to put Elizabeth? Because she was there and Joyce was there. And it was, they were, and it was so meticulous.
They were, I nearly want to reread it now.
But even them going on the road trip and the humour in that, and they had to, like, who was the most likely to be able to drive. Yeah. Somebody's license was expired. Somebody, the last time they had driven, it was a tank in Germany and in 19, whatever, that was Elizabeth. So that only left Abraham. And I think it was Abraham, and Joyce was in the back nattering because I don't know if she ever had a driver's license. So the 4 old people set off, and he was driving, I think, at 25 miles an hour because he wasn't quite sure of where. So it was quite comedic. But he didn't want to tell them that he could work out the distance using the sat-nav. That they didn't actually need to go on this journey at all, but it had been that long since he had been on a road trip that he wasn't going to tell them that, and he had worked out all of the average speed. So and even the excitement, like how, like, I love a road trip.
I know, we take so much for granted.
You do.
Don't we?
I love a road trip, just getting in the car and, like, where are we going, and planning it out. And half the crack is in the car, is the journey. Like, I can think of so many times, I've lost count of times that me and your daddy have got in the car to go to see Bon Jovi. And the road trip down, and then the journey up, and the crack, and the conversation.
I know.
And
mine is, do you know the time we all went to the port, like our whole family essentially, and we're on the radio communicating with each other via text?
Yes, that was so funny. Yeah, so all of those kind of things that, as you get older and your family develop lives, and they might have their own families, or they might leave the country, and essentially your life goes on an arc, and you could be very left alone.
Yeah.
So that they have had this kind of revival of all of the everyday norms that we take for granted was just so funny.
You know, and the story, it does deal with like really heavy topics, but it's interspersed with all these wee moments of
great humor.
Yeah, and it's just
and pathos.
Yes, it's just so nice to see. Like it really is, and it completely upended my whole perception on old people and what they were capable of, because
even when we say old people, older people, because old and I know you don't mean that, but I'm even just listening to it.
Yeah,
it's the connotation of it. You know, it's like you're old, you're done, you're dusted, on the shelf, forget about you. But if you're older, there's a wisdom that in terms of the connotations there. You know, it's like, again, come back to Bon Jovi, you know, and his I'm not old, I'm older, and favorite pair of, you know, warm blue jeans. You know, there's something really comforting and you know about that. So I do, and as I get older,
you can resonate with that.
yes, I can, and I'm not done. I have a lot of living still to do, and
a lot of experience behind you to help you with that.
And as my mum tells me, you know, I think I know stuff, but I know nothing. Actually, I get reminded of that quite a lot, and I look forward to passing that pearl on to you.
I feel like you've said that to me already.
I
feel like I have heard that before, from the ages of 12 to now.
Okay, so. But be prepared, because you're going
to hear it again. And you knew nothing when you were saying it, and you still know nothing, but I know even less.
And this proves it. This proves it. So your mommy is always right.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And even the relationship between Joyce and her daughter, and the way that that all came good again.
Yeah.
Because she had lost, I think, she got herself that she didn't know how to communicate with her anymore. She nearly didn't understand her, or her daughter didn't understand her, or whatever it was. There was a breakdown in communication there. In this Thursday Murder Club, I think it was that her daughter didn't want her to go and live.
Her daughter was in the police, wasn't she?
She was an entrepreneur.
I think I'm thinking of
Penny was in the police. But no, she was
she
business.
Bought the
she ended up buying them at the new development at the end. Bramley Holdings, and
see, there's that many characters. That's what there is. So, and then people change their name and stuff, and then some people die, but they're still alive, and
it does.
It all comes together at the end.
It is such a page turner. It really is.
You asked me about my favorite twist. I just want to know what your twist was.
Okay, so my twist, it's like trying to pick your favorite child, because there were so many twists, and you're like,
so many moments.
Which I can't like that one more than that one, because you know.
Whenever I asked that question, what was the one that immediately sprang to your mind?
So the one that I did not see coming was the Penny and John.
Oh, I know.
That now for me, and I think that was the most tragic element, revelation in the book, because it really did bring home to me how, I suppose, the ripple effect that one action or one deed, one wrong action or one wrong deed from decades before can impact in the here and now. And for me, it was that revelation of Penny's action as a young woman, John's action as an old man, as he was watching her dying in the bed. And my views on this certainly don't reflect the views of Osman here. You know, in terms of the issues of euthanasia, I find that quite difficult to read, you know, and
well, I don't think he was.
No, but that's what
all
I mean.
Those heavy topics. I don't think he was trying to show it as a positive.
No, I just find,
because it's not a positive thing. It's a very
difficult.
Thing.
It's a very difficult. Like, there was nothing easy, but that's what I mean. You were kind of taken along on this kind of journey with these characters, but you were every now and again reminded that you're dealing with these really heavy themes within the text.
Yeah.
And
It's easy to forget when you're lost in it,
when you're
I'm
listening,
reading like a nice wee
Yes.
book about these old people that solve crimes.
and now
but
you're
it's
suddenly
really like a dose of reality or
yes,
something.
the rug was ripped
Yeah.
out from underneath you. So that was the revelation that I really didn't see coming, and it's the one that I keep thinking,
Yeah.
that kind of replays and troubles me.
Yeah.
And then the second thing after that, and it's linked to it, is the fact that Penny and Elizabeth were the co-founders of the Thursday Murder Club. Penny was in Willows, which was the hospital, so she was dying. John was sitting at her bedside, her husband, obviously with his wife.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth not going to her funeral because of what had been uncovered. That ripped the heart out of me.
I feel like for Elizabeth it was maybe
She
that sort of
didn't-
disconnect, she thought she had, and it's not that their friendship was ruined, but it was like, this was someone I
think she could and I think he did say that she could rationalize her action. She could understand, but she didn't condone what she did.
Yeah.
And I think, and you said it when I mentioned this to you during the week, she had said her goodbyes. She, and the other thing that really came to the fore was everybody grieves differently.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't judge people in how they choose to manage that loss or that grief.
It's back to that there thing where we expect old people just to be resilient to death.
Absolutely.
And in a sense they are. And I know there is a sense of dark humour that when you're approaching that, it's something that you feel like you can be a bit more jovial about. But it's okay being like that whenever it's not affecting you. But as soon as it does, your reaction's completely different to what you expect.
I totally agree with that. One of the things that I find that I really related to about this was the role of technology. And watching these young people, old people, grapple with technology. And the one thing that, because, you and your sister have the absolute audacity to laugh at me.
Well, we take a selfie, girls. Why are you not in my selfie?
I can't take a selfie. And I like to think
and you're not even in that generation.
I just can't do it.
You should know how to take a selfie.
Hi! Like, I like to think that it means that I am just not narcissistic enough, and you and your sister
take
are.
selfies.
I don't take
selfies. I don't have Instagram. I'm very silent on any social media I do have.
But she's very good at taking a wee selfie.
Well, I know about, depends on who knows me. They might say I'm a narcissist. No, I understand space and how space works.
So do I. I just can't. I don't have the
angles, and I know that
technology repels me as it becomes as it evolves at speed.
As soon as that front camera appeared in the phone, she's like, "Oh my god, what will I do?"
I just can't cope. So technology. I could really relate to that, and the key line, and I know I'm in, like, I might not be in their age demographic yet, but I am certainly at the same stage as them in regards to technology. There was one character, his daughter had asked him, what do you want for Christmas? And all he wanted was a pair of slippers. And she said that wasn't a good enough present and landed with an iPad. He didn't know how to switch it on, didn't know what to do with it. And he had to go out and buy himself a pair of slippers, So that made me giggle because I do struggle, with the technology.
But it shows that sort of generational divide again, but in a really sort of humorous way, like, because it is the same. It's like whenever I ask you, what do you want for Christmas? You're like, oh, don't be spending a lot of money. Get me, a book and a robe or something, and I'm like, but that sounds crap.
But there's nothing I like more, and this is where I'm showing my age. Christmas night, in front of the fire, my new fluffy pajamas with a good book. That is just coziness. That's Christmas
I'm falling
to me.
into that now because
you get it.
When people are like, what do you want for Christmas? Books. That's it. Books.
Yeah. With a nice wee pair of fluffy socks and
See, maybe I'm relating more to these elderly folk.
I think that's really, really what came through, and the dynamic and the fact that they embraced the change as well.
Yeah.
Even when they were talking about the Skype call or the Zoom call, and Joyce is describing things as that wee box, and we were all leaning into the wee box and different things, and I'm going, okay, that's me. It's like
it's like, do you know the old people laughing at themselves on FaceTime because they've never seen themselves on camera before like that? Oh.
And I say this lovingly when they laugh at me teaching me how to use technology and new technology.
How to take a selfie, that's what it is.
I had to teach you how to use a knife and fork. I taught you how to use a spoon. So people in glass houses, Christina, should not throw stones. So just you remember that. So yes, that as you get older, and I'm now approaching that stage in my life where I am now thinking about planning for my retirement in the next decade or so. But you have to diversify, and you can't be defined by your past, and you have to go out into the future and kind of reimagine yourself.
I feel like the book showed me that you're always
growing.
And it doesn't matter what age you are, what stage you're at in life, there's always room to be someone different, not that you need to change who you need to be, but you're always evolving.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's what it is.
And I very much I'm looking forward to that. And it's something when it kind of makes you reflect on your whatever stage and age you're in at life, because you and like your daddy and I keep going to say young, free and single. We're not young, we're not single.
You're not really free, you're still shackled by me. So.
But, we don't have the same parental responsibilities that we have. So we're now in a different phase and stage, and life's good.
Do you know what? That's another thing. You're just saying life's good. I genuinely could not see myself. I will never reach the age of 20. 20 came and went. I will never reach the age of 25. And because aging really scared me. Well, not scared me, but I just didn't want to be old. And everything that comes with being old. My knees are very sore, by the way. But
and you're not old.
But this book made me look forward to being
not to write yourself off.
Yeah. But it made me look forward to aging, and like I wouldn't say I'm full of wisdom or anything, but developing that wisdom, having that wit, and I want to be a cool granny. That's my goal.
Cool granny. I am a cool granny. I'm just saying that. I know it's not cool to call yourself cool, but I am the butterfullest girl in the world according to Finn, and I am so cool according to Killian. So yeah, I own that. But I just think that it has really presented, like, who would ever have thought writing a murder mystery text around a retirement home with 4 older people, senior citizens, as the protagonist would work. And do you know what?
It's the perfect combination.
It was. And what I really loved about this was, again, and I'm not sure, I know that there are more books in the series, and I am going to read them. Yeah. But, there was still that little dynamic, that romantic life and, partnership still not over. You know, that Joyce was, the tragedy of Bernard was, that was full of pathos. And then whenever the farmer, his name is slipped my mind, when he sold up and bought property in the retirement, there was a potential romantic relationship there. And, just because you're old doesn't mean that you stop thinking or feeling or wanting companionship. It's a much deeper companionship. It's really about what love is, that true friendship, true companionship,
company,
true love, all of those things written in, because John was sitting beside his wife Penny's bedside, holding her hand.
It
Elizabeth
puts things
with
in perspective,
Stephen.
though.
Yes, all of those things. Now, there's one character that we haven't mentioned, and I suppose it'll be the last character that we're going to talk about, was the really intriguing, I felt, Bogdan.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
and
he just seemed to be here, there, and everywhere.
He did. And what I found about him was he was a good character, a good person, but capable of doing really bad things.
But I think that speaks to human nature. We are all intrinsically, or we all believe intrinsically, that we are good people. But each and every one of us are capable of bad things. Maybe not to the same extent.
But Bogdan, there was an innate kindness in him in terms of how he treated the old people. But there was a side to him that was really very bad, because he plotted the murder and revenge of the wrongdoing that had been done against his family and his cousin. But yet he didn't pose a threat to the young people or to the older people. You know, he wasn't there to try and hurt. So that caused me a little bit of discomfort. It made me uncomfortable. Because, again, there was a very close parallel there between Penny and Bogdan for me. Because he was writing, he was taking justice into his own hands.
Yeah.
And you can't do that in a civilized society. You have to, you have to stay.
I do think, it's nuanced and all, but I do agree with what you're saying. You know, there has to be a line somewhere, and where, like,
just because
Penny,
you like a character and you can understand. You know.
No, I understand what you're. Yeah, and even when you can understand what they've done, you're like, but where is the line? When does this become a bad thing? It's
that. So there has to be. I think what this reminds us of, there are always things, irrespective of age, that are objectively right and objectively wrong, and it doesn't matter how much time passes, that those objective wrongs will always come to the fore. They will always be found out within your lifetime or within the lifetime of your loved ones. And I think that's very much what has come to the fore. And I think that Elizabeth, who started the text, she was a person full of integrity. And I think that her choice in not going to Penny's action or to Penny's funeral her action there speaks to her integrity, her innate sense of objective right and wrong. Like, she didn't.
I do believe in a grey area, though, but we'll not dive into it.
Well, there are grey. No, but there has to be an objective right and wrong. Grey areas come into if it's a self-defense. We were talking like this was a calculated, cold-blooded murder. That's objectively wrong. And then the other side of it is, you have to believe that, like, the justice system is there. It's flawed because it doesn't always get it right, but you have to believe and have faith that that's the exception as opposed to the rule.
The thing that stood out wasn't the murders, it wasn't the mystery, it was these four unlikely friends coming together to have this Thursday murder club, you know.
And I think that that's what this text is. Fundamentally, don't write off older people. They have a rich tapestry of experience. They have a rich tapestry of skills that they can apply to the here and now. And they should be given the opportunity to do that. So if you haven't read this text, read it, because I know this summer I'm going to be reading all of the sequels. They are going to be packed on my holiday reading list. I'll need a separate suitcase now for all of the books that I'm going. So read it. You will not be disappointed.
Do you know what? I feel like it's suitable
for
every age, you know, from teenagers right the way through, you know.
Clever.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? And like, as you were saying, it would suit, you know, the specification and all, you know, and it's an enjoyable read, and there's so much to unpack there.
Oh, like
with it.
we could go, like there are so many things, like we had to narrow down
Yeah.
what it was we were going to talk about tonight to those core areas, but there's so much more that we could go on about.
yeah.
So read it and let us know your thoughts. So we are going to go back next week. We're going to return to the fantasy genre.
I would say you say this is
Well,
a fantasy fairy tale, maybe.
It's fantasy in terms of it is like a fairy tale fantasy.
Yeah.
And it reads so well. So it's called Tress of the Emerald Sea, a Cosmere novel, and it's by Brandon Sanderson. And he is a Sunday Times best-selling author. So we're going to be looking at this text next week. And I've started reading it, as have you, and we are hooked. So we'll look forward to talking to you about it. So until next week, cheers.